6359 9383 8757.
Here? No. Okay. How are you? Okay, good. Hi. Hi. There were going to be people coming to this meeting.
6359 37.
But he was sick, you know, I checked it. She's. Yeah.
Yep.
So sorry. No.
Painting room only by the time we're done?
Yeah. And then you.
Things quiet down there yet or not? There you go. Yeah, we're into that wall. It'll be another month. Unless we get some snow. Yeah. One day we had snow, like 6 snow. Yeah. We went over to Skipper's last Saturday night and Sherry been wanting to try it. And when we pulled up over there, the roads were sloppy. An hour and 20 minutes later, I left and there was 3 inches in the parking lot. It's like, wow. Oh, yeah, I know. I was gonna say, my dad had a CJ many years ago. That thing would spin so fast, your hat would be on backwards.
So that, I need a new traction bar in the front, it goes in Tuesday, for traction bar and alignment. So I'm already doing this and fighting death walls. And we put those balloon tires on it, add all that up. Roads, Jay.
David, Dave, you have a spare copy of the secret. The only reason I asked is because I had a new printer put on my computer and
I'm out of paper, so
it's laughing, laughing at me.
That's a bad.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I also got extra copies of that.
Yeah, there's no way to read this.
Oh, nice.
This map you just gave us.
It's difficult, but it's almost. The
Yes, they do, bug listed 4 at outlook.com.
Yeah, go way back. Then we're fine all that. You know, so then I told her, and then like 10 times.
BRISTOL, number 4 at outlook.com.
You said, yeah. We had a computer reading them. Great. Main Street.
Okay, hopefully that comes through.
That's all. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll know more tomorrow. He's only 7.
Probably not just.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Hello? Hello.
I bet. Well, she said it's. But it sounds. We don't went to my sister. Was in a. Oh, she never did. I went on It requires you to do your part. Over the counter. It's hard. Yeah, that's. So I misunderstood. Yeah, he's fine. Yeah, and you swallow, not something that you sound like. So, but you can only go through that. So, well, that's good to know about. I mean, really? They're little tiny. Oh, yeah, well, it's rare for Johnny. Yeah. 90. It's like a lot of people. Yeah, it depends, because we go for the month. Right, right. Oh my God. She changes. No, he already runs like this with him. I took all my You know, so it's fun. Just like so, but yeah, he's I just smiles all the time.
I was wondering if you were gonna make it tonight.
I go ahead.
There's a white Subaru with the engine running out there. Something like that. There's a white Subaru whose engine's running out there. Somebody shut it off. But I don't think it's mine, but I can look. Weird, I don't think I've ever done that.
Planning on leaving in a hurry?
Those new ones, I mean, my car, sometimes I think it's off and it's not. I mean, you shut it off with a button, but if you don't have it turned, it's not.
Sure.
Yeah, that's true.
Most cars do, it sits idle for 10 minutes in one spot,
Oh, it shuts off.
usually.
I haven't.
I know my remote start, like I start in the morning, 10 minutes.
Yeah, if I remote start with that.
It's probably a good idea, you know?
Mine's a 16, I've never had anything newer, so.
Good ball there.
That's how you get turned 6:30. Depends on.
Almost came down to pay bills there.
Yeah, I know.
No, don't worry, you'll get a chance. It's coming.
As I was running to the post office before the time, I thought, oh geez, so I could pay bills. I pulled into the office, I saw the auditors there and I thought, oh no, we won't have bills.
Right. Next week's fun.
That's pretty cool. Box water is better.
Yep.
It's probably true.
Well, this whole microplastic thing, you know?
Yeah.
There's plastics outside of that.
Yeah, so I found it one time we went to, we were traveling for my kids' baseball tournament and we went to a gas station in Pennsylvania and.
Been finding it ever since.
No, just get it on Amazon.
Oh.
Buy the cakes.
Oh, that's a good idea. Cool.
Yeah, I actually just have them ship it to my office.
Good idea. That it's there.
Yeah, then it's there. I don't have to walk down the hall every time I need water.
Good thinking.
The brand for that.
It's literally the name Box Water is better.
Oh,
Swamp water.
Boxwater.com.
all right.
Supposedly,
They think
even
of bags.
the cap is made from plant-based material.
Oh, cool.
That's great.
Because somebody was giving, I was at a planning board meeting and kind of play last night and I had one with me and they were giving me Crap, yeah, about it.
Crap?
And they're like, well, what's that plastic cap? And I'm like, well, it says right here, even the cap is plant-based.
Yeah. They did. They were the only ones. They were right down
I was
the
just-
road.
Yeah, but no.
I get the right, yeah, one of Maiden Lane is right.
25 people.
29 people.
That's 29.
Yeah, that's really good.
There's 5 times 5 rows.
Oh, did you?
Oh, it's a 29.
You could get anytime.
Yeah.
It was.
The less.
We're gonna call the meeting to order. Tonight's agenda is the board will review the seeker that's been prepared by Kathy Bennett, our attorney in this matter. And then she will lead us from there through what's called termination and findings.
Okay. I'll stand so that way everybody can hear me. I don't know why I brought this. I don't need this. With this, I have a lot of reading to do. So good evening. As the mayor indicated, we're going to start with completing the seeker. So if you will recall, you reviewed part 1 of the short EAF back in September. That was also exhibit N of the hearing record. And then you passed a resolution on September 21st, in which you declared yourself the lead agency for purposes of the seeker review and classified the action as an unlisted action. And that resolution was included as exhibit O to the eminent domain hearing record. So what we're going to do now is we're going to walk through part 2. I've answered the questions in part 2. However, those are just suggested answers. It's up to this board to determine whether they agree with that answer, whether they want to change that answer. I'm certainly not wedded to those answers. So if you think something needs to be answered differently, it's up to this board to decide whether they should be answered the way they are presented or whether they need to be answered differently. So we'll start with question 1, which is, will the proposed action create a material conflict with an adopted land use plan or zoning regulations? And the 2 choices are no or small impact may occur, or moderate to large impact may occur. And my suggested answer was no or small impact may occur.
Do you need to hear a vocal from us?
Some sort of, yes, kind of.
Shaking our heads doesn't work, especially for those online.
Right, yes.
I agree.
Yeah.
Okay. Question 2, will the proposed action result in a change in the use or intensity of land? And again, the suggested answer is no or small impact.
Absolutely change the use in the land.
Yeah,
Absolutely. If there's nobody on it now and then you get 100 people a day crossing it, that absolutely,
he's right.
that's a moderate to a large impact. Absolutely.
So then I would ask the board to like I would put that to a vote of the board then.
We're just.
You're not
The
changing it right
question
away.
is the eminent domain at the
No.
moment.
Yeah.
It's not
The
changing.
proposed action will result in a change in the use or intensity of the
It'll
use
be
of
what it
land.
was before.
That's right.
Did that come today? I missed this.
It came on
No, it came on
Monday.
Monday.
I'm sorry, I didn't see it.
I have a copy.
There you go.
I
Oh,
can give you
thank
another
you.
copy.
I wondered why we didn't get anything. What's this mean? Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes, of course.
You need one?
No, I got it right here on my screen.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Okay, so do we want to do a vote on question 2?
Let me, I'm gonna
Sure.
ask you to stop right there for a moment.
Sure.
You know, we are the lead agency on this yet. You filled out the questions and now you're putting this to a vote for us. We haven't discussed any of this stuff.
That's what we're doing now.
No, we as a board should have discussed this, not you dictating to us and explaining your answers.
We actually did this the first time in September.
Part 2 of this, we did not.
We did part one,
I
right?
mean,
We did
if,
part 1 and
This-
we did part 2 as a draft.
if you prefer a blank form, I can have a blank form printed and we can start over.
Yeah, at another meeting when we do this. Because this is not, this is stuff getting rammed down our throat.
No, it's not.
Yes, it
Not at
is,
all.
Dave.
You had it
Dave,
all.
I'm gonna make a motion right now to dismiss this whole hearing based on Jennifer Evans should have recused herself back when I brought that motion forward before, because she bought Jax and is buying Jax and is an absolute conflict of interest. And the attorney said it herself, if she was connected to that, which is where the Greenway Trail is supposed to end, that would be a direct conflict of interest. Therefore, the motion goes against our ethics, and you're gonna lead us right into another lawsuit. You're gonna lead the village right into another lawsuit with us. So I make the motion that we dismiss eminent domain right here and now, and we go back to the drawing board and work with the landowners to find a way for the right of way, not by taking their land, but by being good neighbors and doing this the right way.
I'll second that to get it off the table.
Any further discussion from anybody?
Yeah, my concern is, you know, we've talked about this and we keep talking about this right away. Because it is topic of conversation, but if you look on the right of way paperwork that's here, and I know you gotta have a bionic eye to read it, but that's beside the point. It says United States of America as far as owners. Now, here's my feeling, is this, is if in fact, the United States of America owned that right of way, which is every damn one of us that are in this building.
That's
If
correct.
they owned that to start with, back when Guy and those guys bought their property and that stuff, it never should have been deeded over to them to start with. It's a quick claim deed, it's junk. Okay, it's got nothing to do with it. We're not changing anything. The use is the same and that type of thing. Now, as far as the ethics thing, I'm not up on the ethics part of it, you know, not that part of it anyways. But as far as starting back over from scratch again, I don't necessarily know that's a necessity. But I don't know. That's why you're here. Well, only because of the ethics part of it, you know, what are we doing? But we worked our way through this,
Right.
you know, from September, and you know, we're down to this wire, and we do in fact have a deadline to meet.
I agree with the fact that we have a deadline. I am not finding where I received this, and I'm looking through it. And I'm on my village email, and I know I didn't get it from the other one either. I wrote and asked where it was on Monday.
You did that on Friday and it was
Okay.
sent to you on Monday.
Well, I haven't taken anything off of here, Dave. I don't know how.
And it says right in the findings as well, that the fee and title has not been decided yet. They still don't know who owns it yet.
We'll get there. Let's get through the secret.
Well, no, I made a motion.
There
we had
is a motion
second.
on the floor. There's a
Yeah.
motion and a second on the floor.
And I just really don't want to go through eminent domain. If it turns out it's owned by us, I'm okay. That's what we did the original $15,000 for, was to find out if we had any rights to it.
Mhm.
We the people. And if we the people already own it, to go through eminent domain, we need to just do it.
Well, I don't want to use eminent domain either. However, my point right from the start with this was let's sit down with them and figure out what we can come to. Now, I'm
Absolutely.
assuming that you folks, their attorney and our attorney, as in you, did you guys get a chance to talk? Did they just flat out say, no, we don't want to do it? What, is that something I can ask here?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yes, I had a conversation with the Beretta's attorney and basically we were not able to come to any agreement
Of any kind.
of any kind.
Because based on the email that you sent, because eminent domain was still on the table. And well, eminent domain was on the table. That was in the verbiage. I got in here. They were not willing to wheel and deal. And I can't say because things were said in closed session, but there was a claim made that was absolutely false. It was a complete lie, fabrication. And that's why I pulled the motion before, because Jennifer should have recused herself on that first time that I pulled it. And on
I can tell you, Bud, that since 2018,
I don't care about 2018, Dave. I'm talking about now, okay? And you have made your place with the Berettas and not gotten along as far as what's going to go forward, right? You gave them two options. They didn't like those options. They were kicked back. And so now, once they put up the fence, you decided you were gonna go forward with this. This was pushed on us. This was not explained to us properly.
When they applied for the fence, I suggested, do you wanna put in a gate? No, we don't wanna put in a gate, we don't wanna be responsible for logging it. I suggested they run fences along the sides of the right of way. No, they didn't wanna do that because it would block their backyard. What options or settlement proposals have they put forth?
I don't know because
Attorney then.
we haven't been part of those conversations, right? But you're talking attorneys in the village going to somebody, hey, we're gonna do this. What about if we do this? But how about we get somebody with some logistics and some building experience, a mediator, somebody to get in there. There's 3 families there, not just one. We get 3 families, we get them all together and we find out what works. And that's what I've been proposing since day one. Let's be a good neighbor. If we're gonna put a right of way back, and I'm not against the right of way, I'm against the use of eminent domain to force what we want. Okay, that is wrong. It's just wrong. And the 7th Amendment, you'll find that this won't be over. They have a right to a jury trial in a civil case.
But the eminent domain is not to own the property. It's to use the property for what it was used for in the past.
Right.
Am I correct? It's not like we want to go down 74 feet and own that
Right.
acreage, okay?
No, it's gotta be. it's
They could
gotta
have
be-
spoke up. If they wanted to go, I didn't really want to go with eminent domain. None of us do, obviously. But they could have spoke up and said, that was a gambling piece for them. Okay, well, they gambled.
Well,
And this is the way it's turned out.
and overwhelmingly at the public hearing, the village is against eminent domain.
You can't
These
say
people-
that because you can.
At the public hearing, Dave, the public hearing, the people that showed up were overwhelmingly against eminent domain. The numbers don't lie. The numbers don't lie. There was one person that voted for eminent domain.
It's a motion on
Yeah.
the table. They should
Yeah.
vote to
Yes.
Whether to proceed.
Yes.
All right, so do we want to vote on this motion? Are we ready to do that?
Need be sure.
All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Of the motion?
Of
Wait,
the motion to stop eminent domain. That's the motion.
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, so now we will continue with number 2. Will the proposed action result in a change in use or intensity in the use of the land?
Yes.
So I think we have to vote and say, who believes it's moderate to large?
What, this refers to, I mean, up until a year and a half ago, this was the use of the land. It was open and a right of way.
Right.
So you could argue that absolutely there would be no change.
No, it's
I think
based
that's
on,
what some of us are
existing.
arguing, and Bud is arguing something different.
it's going on, the seeker says in the existing, that's what's going on now, not what used to happen. There used to be a train that went down through there. That didn't happen after a certain point.
Yeah, but as we talked about, we're not going back to 1918 or 18 or 2018 or whatever it's now. You said that yourself a
Yeah.
minute ago. So
So what is existing?
So who believes it's moderate to large impact? Anybody?
I do.
Who believes it's small or no impact?
I'm struggling with this because I think it should just be a prescriptive easement and be done with that.
We had that chance.
Why didn't we do it? All of a sudden, once we went to court, this came up to get rid of the court hearing.
No,
No?
no,
So we'll still have the court hearing after this is.
I don't know. They're separate things.
Right, they're still in court. So if we lose that court case,
So
then what?
what is the big hurry to get eminent domain before we do the court hearing? The court hearing's covered by insurance. We're spending all kinds of money on this. And in my opinion, we should let the court hearing take care of it. And then if we have to do eminent domain, we've got everything done to do it.
It
Yeah,
doesn't-
but the court hearing isn't necessarily gonna resolve the underlying question, whether or not.
But it'll stop the threats of lawsuits, I would think.
Well, not necessarily. The question in the lawsuit is whether or not the planning board acted arbitrarily and capriciously in how they responded to the fence that was put up in order not to take it
Right.
down. And whether the Berettas were denied equal protection and so on and so forth. How the court answers that's not gonna determine whether or not there's valid easement along there necessarily.
Well, and then if it's owned by the United States government, it's owned by us. I
Well, the
just don't see
government-
the point of spending any more money on this until it's taken care of by the court. And we know now that who owns it. Am I correct? It's the United States government that owns it,
Well, they
correct?
have an easement across.
Right, the United
Government
States
just has
government
easements.
has.
It's owned by a
has
railroad.
easement. It's owned by the Elmira and Lake Ontario Railroad Company. As a successor to Sodas Point and Southern Railroad Company.
I keep seeing us go down a rat hole spending all this money
We're already
like-
over the money that we had.
that we approved. Where are we
approved.
getting the money for it? That's what I wanna know. I'm really.
No,
down
where are we
down
getting the
with
money?
this
That's a
thing.
valid question, Dave. Where are we getting the money for this? We're already over the number we approved.
Yes, we have money in fund balance.
Where?
The sooner we get this knocked off, the better we're gonna be.
No, that's not how this
Yeah.
moves forward. Where are we getting the money? Answer the
From the
question.
fund balance.
From the fund balance. So you're taking taxpayers' money, you're going over the authorized amount that we stated.
No, we're not.
Oh, we're not? You just said we were.
We
We're not
already,
going over the authorized amount.
I thought
what
the
was
authorized.
the authorized amount?
There isn't one.
I don't think we're discussing that here at the moment. Can we stay on? Let's stay on topic.
That's not what it says.
Let's stay on
All right,
topic.
Yeah,
stay,
thank you.
stay on topic.
No,
Okay.
it's,
All right, so we're on question number 2 on the seeker. So all those that believe it should be answered with no or small impact, please raise your hand. All those that believe it should be moderate to large impact, please raise your hand. All right. Go ahead, Kathy.
Okay, number 3, will the proposed action impair the character or quality of the existing community? And I'm just gonna let you guys answer.
Well, it depends on how you look at it.
All those that believe it's no or small impact, please raise your hand. All those that believe it's moderate to large impact, please raise your hand.
All right. Number 4, will the proposed action have an impact on the environmental characteristics that caused the establishment of a critical environmental area?
All those that believe it's no or small impact, please raise your hand.
No.
All those that believe it's moderate to large, please raise your hand.
They're gonna anyway.
How are you voting on number 4? But
I don't know. I'm not an environmentalist, so.
Lori,
I don't think it's a big impact.
Depends, people start throwing garbage in the water, then what?
No, I haven't this far.
Okay, so
That's why this should be discussed in a meeting,
Yes.
not here. Yeah. Being pushed through.
What are you saying, large?
Yes, I'll say large for everything, just put that down.
Will the proposed action result in an adverse change in the existing level of traffic or affect existing infrastructure for mass transit, biking, or walkways?
So adverse is the word.
Right,
key word in
adverse
there.
change, correct.
So no or small impact, please raise your hand. But you're moderate to large, right?
Yep.
Number 6, will the proposed action cause an increase in the use of energy and it fails to incorporate reasonably available energy conservation or renewable energy opportunities?
No or small impact, please raise your hand. But you're medium to large, right?
Yep.
Number 7, will the proposed action impact existing public or private water supplies?
No or small impact, raise your hand. Moderate to large, raise your hand.
And will the proposed action impact existing public-private wastewater treatment utilities? No.
No or small impact, please raise your hand.
Well, you define use here.
Moderate to large, please raise your hand.
Once again, just.
Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of important historic, archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resources?
Small to little impact, raise your hand. Moderate to large, raise your hand.
Don't know, I'm a botanist.
Will the proposed action result in an adverse change to natural resources such as wetlands, water bodies, groundwater, air quality, flora, and fauna?
Small to no impact, raise your hand. Moderate to large, raise your hand.
Will the proposed action result in an increase in the potential for erosion, flooding, or drainage problems?
Small to no impact, raise your hand. Moderate to large, raise your hand.
And then will the proposed action create a hazard to environmental resources or human health?
Small to no impact, raise your hand. Moderate to large, raise your hand.
Okay, so in part 3, for every question in part 2 that was answered moderate to large impact, or if there's a need to explain why a particular element of the proposed action may or will not result in a significant adverse environmental impact, please complete part 3. So since the majority of the board decided that it was no or small impact may occur, there's no reason to complete part 3. I did add a sentence that noted that based on the answers to part 2, the majority, and I'm going to change it to the majority of the village board concludes that the general effect of the action on the environment will be negligible since the proposed acquisition is seeking to retain and reopen an existing walking path. There would be no environmental impacts as a result of the acquisition. Does anybody have anything else they would like to add to that? So now what we need to do is consider the resolution issuing a negative declaration based on the completion of the short environmental assessment form. I'm going to read the resolution and it's.
Instead of the resolution, I'd like to review the determination and findings.
You have to do the seeker resolution first. And then we'll get to that. I'll read that as well. But we have to do the seeker resolution first.
No, we don't. We're in a meeting. They can do whatever.
Well, you can't take a vote on it until seeker is completed. That's how it works.
Yeah, we're just not voting on it yet.
Go ahead with the resolution.
So whereas the Village of Sodas Point Village Board of Trustees, the village, is considering the acquisition by eminent domain of a 10-foot permanent easement over and or adjacent to certain real property in the Village of Sodas Point owned by the successor in interest to the Northern Central Railroad, which we believe is the Elmira and Lake Ontario Railroad Company, and potentially adjacent to property owned by James and Lisa McNaney, the Depew Family Irrevocable Trust, and Guy and Kathleen Beretta, identified as the property. The village is acquiring the permanent easement for the purpose of restoring an existing public right-of-way from the village to the Lakeview subdivision, to the bayfront, to the pier, to the beach, and to the lakefront in general. I meant the bayfront earlier, and to the lakefront in general, which is defined as the action. And whereas pursuant to EDPL section 201, a public hearing with respect to the acquisition of the property was held on October 18th, 2023. And whereas village law sections 1-102 and 4-412 and general municipal law section 74 states that the Village of Sodas Point may acquire land by eminent domain to serve any public use or purpose which includes any use that would contribute to the health, safety, general welfare, convenience, or prosperity of the community. And whereas the purpose for the proposed condemnation is to restore public access to an existing right-of-way walking path along Sodas Bay from the village center to the pier, beach, lakefront, and homes in the Lakeview subdivision. And whereas the action involves the acquisition of a 10-foot wide permanent easement over the existing 20-foot wide permanent easement that runs in favor of the federal government to restore public access to an existing walking path. And whereas pursuant to the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, SEQRA, S-E-Q-R-A, the village has prepared part 1 of a short environmental assessment form for the action. And whereas the village desires to comply with the requirements of SEQRA and its implementing regulations set forth at 6 NYCRR Part 617, the regulations, with respect to the acquisition of the property and the action. And whereas at its meeting on September 21st, 2023, the village board classified the action as an unlisted action under the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act and determined that there were no other involved agencies. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the village confirms and adopts the following conclusions. 1, the village hereby classifies the action as unlisted under SEQRA. 2, the village will act as the lead agency and has elected to conduct a coordinated review of the action. 3, the village has compared the impacts that may reasonably be expected to result from the action to the criteria for determining significance identified in section 617.7, subsection C, subsection 1 of the regulations, and evaluated the issues of causation and significance in light of the standards under the same section of the regulations. 4, the village has not identified any significant adverse environmental impacts associated with the action, and none are known to the village. Based upon its review and for the reasons set forth in the EAF parts 1, 2, and 3, the village hereby determines that the action will not have any significant adverse impacts on the environment and reaches the following further conclusions. A, the action will not result in a substantial adverse change in existing air quality, ground or surface water quality or quantity, traffic or noise levels, a substantial increase in solid waste production, or a substantial increase in the potential for erosion, flooding, leaching, or drainage problems. The removal or destruction of large quantities of vegetation or fauna, substantial interference with the movement of a resident or migratory fish or wildlife species, impacts on a significant habitat area, substantial adverse impacts on threatened or endangered species of animal or plant or the habitat of such species, or other significant adverse impacts to natural resources. B, the action will not affect a critical environmental area as designated pursuant to 6 NYCRR section 617.14 subsection G. C, the action will not conflict with the community's current plans or goals as officially approved or adopted. D, the action will not result in the impairment of the character or quality of important historical, archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resources or of existing community or neighborhood character. E, the action will not result in a major change in the use of either the quantity or type of energy. F, the action will not result in the creation of a hazard to human health. G, the action will not result in a substantial change in the use or intensity of use of land, including architectural, open space, or recreational resources, or in its capacity to support existing uses. H, the action will not result in encouraging or attracting of a large number of people to a place or places for more than a few days compared to the number of people who would come to such place absent the action. I, the action will not result in the creation of material demand for other actions that would result in one or more of the above consequences. J, the action will not result in changes in two or more elements of the environment, no one of which has a significant impact on the environment, but when considered together result in a substantial adverse impact on the environment. And K, the action will not result in two or more related actions undertaken, funded, or approved by an agency, none of which has or would have a significant impact on the environment, but when considered cumulatively would meet one or more of the criteria in 6 NYCRR section 617.7 subsection C. Number 5, the information available concerning the action was sufficient for the village to make its determination, and the requirements of seeker, including 6 NYCRR part 617, have been met. 6, the village hereby approves and adopts the EAF for the action, parts 1, 2, and 3, issues a negative declaration, and will not require the preparation of an environmental impact statement for the action. Number 7, the village hereby directs the mayor to execute the EAF and to make any filings and publication required by law related to this negative declaration. Number 8, the clerk or the mayor of the village is hereby authorized to and may distribute copies of this resolution and do such further things or perform such acts as may be necessary or convenient to implement the provisions of this resolution. Number 9, a copy of this resolution shall be placed on file in the office of the village clerk, where the same shall be available for public inspection during business hours.
I have 2 questions. We are still considering this is only on the environmental assessment.
This is only the environmental assessment,
And
correct?
should it include James and Lisa McNeely when James is deceased? He passed within the last year.
I think it's just that's who title show, because he's would still be on the deed.
Okay.
Record could reflect that he's passed.
I think it should.
Yes, that's fine. But as,
Okay,
it was just because he's was still reflected as
right.
on the deed.
So we're only doing the assessment. This doesn't entitle anybody to do anything more.
No, this is
Just wanna
only,
make
this-
sure.
yes, this is only the environmental review. You are only issuing, considering whether or not to issue a negative declaration under the Environmental Quality Review Act.
I'll make the motion to adopt the foregoing resolution.
You haven't defined the use of the property yet, other than a walking path, but what's the defined use? How can you say what it's gonna impact if you haven't defined the use of what it's gonna be?
First, is there a second?
Yes, I'll second.
Dave, you keep pushing things along, okay? I asked the
No, because
question
now it's
before.
time for
it's a second.
discussion.
You know, you keep ramming it down everybody's throat because it's your agenda. It's your agenda, Dave, not the village's. People spoke out against this in droves, and you keep pushing and pushing and pushing. You broke our own resolution, having conversations with the attorney without us getting it in real time. You know it and I know it. Well, the only vote we should be having tonight is there a vote of no confidence in you for doing things, not being transparent? That's what we should be voting on right now.
You're the one that didn't come in and review this material.
Listen, I didn't review the papers for people saying yes to the right of way. Was there a no on that ticket? Or were they just yes? No, there wasn't.
There were no's in there.
No, on the little things you put out.
I
Vote
didn't
yes
put
for the
those
right
out.
of
I
way.
have no idea.
But you pushed them around through the
I
office.
call the motion.
Along with the signs. Along with the signs.
All right. We're now voting. And we gotta do it by voice vote. So Bud,
I vote no.
Lori,
Yay.
Bill,
Yeah,
Kathy?
Yay, that's a yes, right?
Yeah.
Just check.
I vote yea as well. So we declared that there's no environmental impact if we move forward.
That's it.
Yep.
So we know that when we take it back, because we're citizens of the United States of America, we have no environmental problems. Because you and I said so.
That's right.
Because we're
There you go.
qualified.
yeah.
Sorry.
Okay, Kathy.
Okay, I'm gonna read the determination and findings. And then if somebody wants to make a motion one way or another on them and we have a second, then there can be discussion.
And what is the goal of the determination and findings? To accept them or reject them?
The board can choose to do with them what they will after I read them. That's entirely the prerogative of this board. Generally, the way determination and findings is written, it's written to move forward with the eminent domain. It is entirely up to you whether you accept or reject them.
Okay. Thank you.
So determination and findings by the Village of Sodas Point, the village pursuant to eminent domain procedure law, section 204, in connection with the proposed acquisition by eminent domain of a 10-foot permanent easement over and or adjacent to certain real property in the Village of Sodas Point, owned by the Elmira and Lake Ontario Railroad Company, and potentially adjacent to property owned by James and Lisa McNaney, the Depew Family Irrevocable Trust, and Guy and Kathleen Beretta, identified as the property. And will again note for purposes of the record that James McNaney has passed away, but was still on the title to the
One
property.
question. When the Berettas got permission from the Army Corps of Engineers to have a 25-year no, it wasn't a
No,
quitclaim,
it was a consent of easement.
and an easement, and they were granted it by the Army Corps. How can we go over that?
Well, because the Army Corps of Engineers in their consent specifically stated that it was subject to the approval of any other appropriate agencies, of which
Okay.
you would be one.
Okay.
I'm paraphrasing, but that was.
Well, I read something about it, but I've read it both ways.
And I believe that the village received a letter from the Army Corps entering,
Yeah.
indicating that they had no objection to
Right,
what this
we did.
board chooses to do
But
on
I-
this matter.
Still wondered how, if they gave one, how we can we go over theirs. Is that it? That's basically what's going on, right?
Yeah, the two easements would overlap one another.
And do we know exactly what it's going to cost us? I'm sorry, I'm really hung up on the cost. Well, if this passes, what the cost is to buy the property from them? Because we still have to buy the property, correct? Or did we determine that we don't have to?
If we can let her get through this, then we can try to answer those.
Okay,
Okay.
so we will be able to do that. Okay,
The village is acquiring the permanent easement for the purpose of restoring an existing public right-of-way from the village to the Lakeview subdivision, to the bayfront, to the pier, to the beach, and to the lakefront in general, identified as the action. Village law sections 1-102 and 4-412 and general municipal law section 74 states that the Village of Sodas Point may acquire land by eminent domain to serve any public use or purpose, which includes any use that would contribute to the health, safety, general welfare, convenience, or prosperity of the community. The purpose for the proposed condemnation is to restore public access to an existing right-of-way, walking path along Sodas Bay from the village center to the pier, beach, lakefront, and homes in the Lakeview subdivision. The right-of-way in favor of the public generally was granted in 1899 by the Elmira and Lake Ontario Railroad Company in connection with the conveyance of a 20-foot right-of-way to the United States of America along Sodas Bay in Wayne County, New York, for the use of the officers, agents, and servants in going to and from the pier. The grant also provided that the right-of-way was for the use and convenience of the public generally, either on foot or with teams. The right-of-way was recorded in the Wayne County Clerk's Office in Book of Deeds, Library 181, page 419. A copy of the 1899 deed was included as Exhibit E to the public hearing record, the entirety of which is attached to this determination and findings as Exhibit 1. Public access to the existing right-of-way has been blocked by nearby and potentially adjoining property owners who mistakenly believe that they own fee title to the land under the 20-foot right-of-way. See Exhibit I to the hearing record. The property over which the easement will be acquired is owned by the successor in interest to the Northern Central Railroad, or which has been identified on the survey as the Elmira and Lake Ontario Railroad Company. A copy of an email from Stewart Title Insurance Company and supporting title search work, and an updated survey prepared by Iannuzzi and Romans Land Surveying PC and dated January 8th, 2024 are attached to these findings as Exhibit 2. The town of Sodus tax maps and assessment records erroneously identify the parcels as being whole parcels, and as a result incorrectly identifies the owners of the parcels as follows. And it would be James and Lisa McNaney with tax map parcel number 71119-18-482237 with an address of 8508 Wickham Boulevard. The Depew Family Irrevocable Trust, tax map parcel number 71119-18-477235 with an address of 8504 Wickham Boulevard. And Guy and Kathleen Beretta, tax map parcel number 71119-18-487239 with an address of 8510 Wickham Boulevard. A copy of the assessment records and tax maps are attached to these findings as Exhibit 3.
Can I stop you for a second? So that means that they don't own the property underneath it. The railroad company does, and then the US government has the right of way on it.
Correct.
Okay. And just to go back to paragraph 2, it says it goes to the pier. What pier was that? Do you know?
It was the pier that is probably now underwater.
Okay, thank you.
But the United States still has that easement
Right.
for that
Right.
purpose. And then it was also for the use of the public generally.
Okay.
So the village passed a resolution on September 21st, 2023 to take all necessary actions to schedule and notice a public hearing with respect to the proposed acquisition of the property pursuant to Article 2 of the EDPL. The resolution and meeting minutes were included as Exhibit N of the public hearing record. The village also considered Part 1 of the full environmental assessment form and declared the proposed acquisition an unlisted action and declared intent to act as the lead agency for purposes of conducting an environmental review pursuant to the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act. The EAF and resolution were included as part of Exhibits N and O of the public hearing record. The village opened a public hearing on October 18th, 2023 at 7 p.m. to consider the action. A notice of the meeting was mailed by certified mail, return receipt requested to the Depew Family Irrevocable Trust, Guy and Kathleen Beretta, Lisa McNaney, and the United States Army Corps of Engineers. A copy of notices and receipts were included as Exhibit G and H to the hearing record. The meeting notice was also published in the Times of Wayne County, a weekly newspaper, on October 8th and October 15th, 2023. The affidavit of publication was attached as Exhibit F to the hearing record. Written public comments were accepted until October 20th, 2023. All public comments are included as part of the hearing record and attached to these findings as Exhibit 3. At the hearing, the public was provided with information concerning the public use, benefits, and purposes to be served by the action's location, the reasons for the selection of the action's location, maps of the property and adjacent parcels, and other facts pertinent to the action. Special counsel to the village presented the public use, benefit, and purpose that would be served by the acquisition of the property. At the public hearing, maps of the property to be acquired by the village were readily available for the public to review. The public was given an opportunity to comment upon the action during the hearing, and written comments were accepted until October 20th, 2023. All testimony and written comments received at the hearing and additional comments received during the comment period have been reviewed, made a part of the record, and afforded full consideration. A transcript of all proceedings was produced and made a part of the record as Exhibit 4. The entire record of proceedings with all the exhibits and written comments was available in the village clerk's office and will be transmitted to the Wayne County Clerk's Office as required by Section 203 of the EDPL. And a copy of the transmission letter to the Wayne County Clerk's Office will be attached as Exhibit 5 to this hearing record. By an indenture to these findings, by an indenture dated February 14th, 1899, the Elmira and Lake Ontario Railroad Company conveyed a 20-foot right-of-way to the United States of America along Sodus Bay in Wayne County, New York, for the use of the officers, agents, and servants in going to and from its pier, and for the use and convenience of the public generally, either on foot or with teams. The right-of-way was recorded in the Wayne County Clerk's Office in Book of Deeds, Liber 181, page 419. The general public could use this right-of-way openly and regularly to access the waterfront from the village of Sodus Point and to move safely on foot from the Lakeview neighborhood, pier, beach, lakefront, and bayfront to and from the village of Sodus Point. This right-of-way remained open for the convenience of the public generally, as intended by its original terms from 1899 until 2022, when one of the abutting property owners constructed a fence across the right-of-way, thereby defeating one of the original purposes for the grant of the right-of-way. Title to the property underlying the historical 20-foot right-of-way as it runs along and or through the properties owned by the Depew Family Trust, the McNaneys, and the Berettas is not settled. Specifically, a letter from Michael Gorman with Monroe Gorman Title Agency, LLC, dated January 8th, 2010, notes that fee interest in the area under the right-of-way was not conveyed and that the successor in interest to the Northern Central Railroad still holds the fee interest subject to the rights in the 1899 right-of-way. See Exhibit K of the hearing record. This was confirmed by Stewart Title Insurance in an email dated November 13th, 2023, and in the survey prepared by Iannuzzi and Romans dated January 8th, 2024, both of which are included as Exhibit 2 to this findings. Use of the historical right-of-way and rights to enforce that continued use by the public generally, as was the original intent of the right-of-way, have been disputed since at least 2018. It also appeared that the village did not have a right to enforce the right-of-way in favor of the general public. Accordingly, to restore access to the public generally, in accordance with the original purpose and intent of the right-of-way, the village is seeking to use its power of eminent domain to acquire its own right-of-way. And a copy of the September 21st, 2023 meeting minutes and resolution scheduling a public hearing is included as Exhibit N to the hearing record. The right-of-way will be over the same area that was conveyed to the United States of America. In effect, the village plans to co-locate its right-of-way with the federal government's right-of-way. The village is not acquiring any right, title, or interest in real property held by the United States of America, nor is the village acquiring any right that is contrary to or inconsistent with the right held by the United States of America. Instead, the village is simply ensuring that the original purpose and intent of the right-of-way for the use and convenience of the public at large is restored. As a result, there is no violation of the prior public use doctrine because the two public uses can and have coexisted since 1899. Correspondents from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers noted that they do not object to the village acquisition of the historic right-of-way. A copy of the Army Corps of Engineers correspondence is attached as Exhibit 6. At its meeting on September 21st, 2023, the village board classified the action as an unlisted action under the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act and determined that there were no other involved agencies. At its meeting on January 11th, 2024, the village board determined that the action would not have any significant adverse impacts on the environment. The village's seeker determination and findings, along with a copy of the environmental assessment form, are attached as Exhibit 7. the village board made the following findings concerning the potential for adverse impacts to the environment. A, the action will not result in substantial adverse change in existing air quality, ground or surface water quality or quantity, traffic or noise levels, a substantial increase in solid waste production, or a substantial increase in erosion, or I'm sorry, in the potential for erosion, flooding, leaching, or drainage problems, the removal or destruction of large quantities of vegetation or fauna, substantial interference with the movement of a resident or migratory fish or wildlife species, impacts on a significant habitat area, substantial adverse impacts on threatened or endangered species of animal or plant, or the habitat of such species, or other significant adverse impacts to natural resources. B, the action will not affect a critical environmental area as designated pursuant to 6 NYCRR section 617.14 G. C, the action will not conflict with the community's current plans or goals as officially approved or adopted. D, the action will not result in the impairment of the character or quality of important historical, archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resources or of existing community or neighborhood character. E, the action will not result in a major change in the use of either the quantity or type of energy. F, the action will not result in the creation of a hazard to human health. G, the action will not result in a substantial change in the use or intensity of use of land, including architectural, open space, or recreational resources, or in its capacity to support existing uses. H, the action will not result in encouraging or attracting of a large number of people to a place or places for more than a few days compared to the number of people who would come to such place absent the action. I, the action will not result in the creation of a material demand for other actions that would result in one or more of the above consequences. J, the action will not result in changes in 2 or more elements of the environment, no one of which has a significant impact on the environment, but when considered together, result in a substantial adverse impact on the environment. And K, the action will not result in 2 or more related actions undertaken, funded, or approved by an agency, none of which has or would have a significant impact on the environment, but when considered cumulatively would meet 1 or more of the criteria in 6 NYCRR section 617.7C. Pursuant to EDPL section 204 subsection B1, the village concludes that the action will serve a legitimate public purpose. Acquisition of the permanent easement is within the village's statutory authority and will serve the public use, benefit, or purpose by preserving the historic existing right-of-way as a public walkway or path along the waterfront from the village to the Lakeview subdivision, to the bayfront, to the pier, to the beach, and to the lakefront in general. Access to the historic easement area has been blocked by a fence, denying the general public's right-of-way and defeating the purpose and intent of the original 1899 easement. Reopening the right-of-way for continued use by the general public will result in safe, continuous pedestrian accommodations along the waterfront for non-motorized transportation, to provide better connectivity for pedestrians between the village businesses and the Lakeview subdivision, the pier, the bay, the beach, and the lakefront generally, to reduce the dependence on automobile travel, and to promote and enhance recreational and scenic opportunities within the village for both residents and tourists. Pursuant to EDPL section 204 subsection B2, the village concludes that the property is the appropriate location for the action because it is co-locating its easement over an existing easement for the same purpose. The village has determined to reduce the width of the easement that it requires from 20 feet to 10 feet. The village also considered comments about using a sidewalk along the north side of Wickham Boulevard. With respect to the use of that sidewalk as an alternative, it is at street level and only 18 inches from the road. There is no curb, so it is easy for pedestrians to end up in the road or cars to end up on the sidewalk. In addition, the sidewalk is located on the north side of Wickham Boulevard, which means that it requires crossing several streets and driveways before getting to the Bay Street extension and then crossing onto the Bay Street extension. While the additional time it takes to use the sidewalk may be negligible, the right-of-way path is safer, scenic, more direct, more interesting, and more appealing to use. Accordingly, no alternatives have proven successful to satisfy the village's objectives of preserving the right-of-way. Pursuant to EDPL Section 204, subsection B3, the village concludes that the general effect of the action on the environment will be negligible, since the proposed acquisition is seeking to retain and reopen an existing walking path. There would be no environmental impacts as a result of the acquisition. Pursuant to EDPL Section 204, subsection B4, the village board considered other relevant factors, including concerns raised by members of the public during the public hearing process. All comments have been given careful, extensive, and due consideration by the village board. Determination. Based on due consideration of the record and the foregoing findings, it is determined that the village should exercise its power of eminent domain to acquire the above described permanent easement over and across the property to promote and permit the purposes of the action and to be achieved, including preserving an existing public right-of-way. Copies of this determination and findings by the village are available and will be forwarded without cost upon request by writing to the village clerk. And then I have to read this disclaimer that's required by law to be in all determination and findings. It says, attention, any person who wishes to seek judicial review of this determination and findings, or who claims to be aggrieved by such determination and findings and wishes to challenge the same must do so, if at all, by duly commencing a legal proceeding in the Appellate Division, 4th Department, Supreme Court, State of New York, at the M. Dolores Denman Courthouse, 50 East Avenue, Rochester, New York, 14604, no later than. And that date will be filled in once we've determined when the publication dates will be, because it is 30 days from when it is published a second time in the Times of Wayne County paper. So that date will be filled in once we get those publication dates. Otherwise, any such challenge or judicial review may be time barred, and by duly serving a demand upon the village to file the record underlying this determination and findings, the Appellate Division may consider the public use, benefit, or purpose to be served by the proposed acquisition and other matters set forth in New York Eminent Domain Procedure Law, Section 207. Under Sections 207 and 208 of the Eminent Domain Procedure Law, the exclusive venue for any challenge to this determination and findings is the above described Appellate Division. Anyone wishing to challenge this determination and findings is advised to consult an attorney promptly.
Well, the one thing we wanted to know was who owns it. Now we know.
We really don't know. It says right here, it's still under review. That's what the other lawsuit's about. They still, the initial interest of them was to the other pier. That was the initial easement. That was the initial right of way, was to the other pier, since no other venue was available. There was no road there before. It was the right of way. That's how they got to the pier. That's how they got the horses over there. That's how the mayor, it's whoever got, the sheriff got over there. That pier no longer exists. A road exists to go around. This is the taking of somebody's land. So we can say we did this, and it's not right.
I agree.
We're gonna deplete the general fund.
This isn't taking any land.
Wait, no, wait, Dave, there's motion for discussion. We can have a discussion.
After we make a motion.
You're pushing your agenda.
Well, Robert's rules of order, I think that is the way it has to be
Pushing
done.
it.
No, I'm not.
You're
Robert-
pushing it. through.
Robert's rules.
Right, yes, there should be a motion in a second, and then you can discuss all you wish.
I'll make a motion, we move forward with it.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, discussion?
Yeah, discussion is that the pier doesn't exist anymore. That it was originally intended for. We're gonna deplete the general fund. Last year at this time, we were trying to figure out where we're gonna get money to pay $3,000 extra for the ladies at the information booth. Yet we can deplete the general fund over this, over the taking of somebody's land. We had to fight tooth and nail for 6 months to fix Sill Shore Road to keep people safe from a flooding situation.
And I.
Yeah, we're gonna
get
take
paid
all the
for
money and throw it after
questions.
lawsuits, which we're not out of the woods yet. The 7th Amendment, okay, people have, I'm a constitutionalist, the 7th Amendment, people have a right to a civil jury trial in this. They can appeal this all the way up if they want. and they could spend lots of money. Okay?
Railroad's probably not interested in doing that.
The railroad might not be, but the 3 homeowners affected are, and they have a right to a jury trial. And they can take this all the way, and we could spend tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars of taxpayer money when the town is falling apart in some areas over this, over a lawsuit that we don't need to run headlong into.
We know now what we need to do if we don't end up owning it. If it's ours, I think we just take it.
But it's not ours, and it's not the railroads.
And it's not Beretta's
It's in
or the
the
3.
court right now to determine whose that is. That's what the other lawsuit's going on right now.
No,
That's not what the other lawsuit.
These are notes.
Okay, whether or not they put the fence on there is going to be a finding, and an action can be taken based on that. It's gonna have some ramifications, whether or not you can do that, where they put their fence, whether or not their fence can remain. But until that comes out, we're not gonna know.
What are the remaining costs over the 15,000 that we know we had to spend for the attorney and we knew we had to spend for 1 survey? I know we've had to have 2 surveys now. I know there are additional costs from the attorney. How much more have we got to spend in order to have this done?
I think we've spent the bulk of it, but I defer to,
You think, but you don't have that answer.
nobody has the answer of how much is left.
Exactly. And they have the right to damages if we do take that property and devalue it. It's not just the value of the property.
The railroad does.
The title insurance
No.
should cover
No,
the
no,
family.
it's not just the railroad, Dave. The people who right now, McNanny's, okay, the Berettas, the Pews, they have a right to peaceful enjoyment of their property. If you put an easement over there, because the railroad's not using that easement. If you put an easement over the top of that and it changes the profile of their property, they can absolutely sue for damages. Absolutely, because it changes the character of their property and the value. And as a realtor, I'm here to tell you, it's a huge change.
But they bought the property when there was a right of way going through there. Now you're saying that we're changing
Still, the
this.
right of way is always.
I'm not saying,
Been there.
I'm not talking
So
about
why
whether or
are
not
we
the right
doing
of way
eminent
is there.
domain? And why
But
are we
doing it
spending
by-
more money to get it? Why aren't we just
By,
going back and taking the fence out?
yeah, by doing it by eminent
Can't
domain,
just go take the
you
fence.
run
Why not?
headlong into
It's on our
lawsuits.
property. Or
Well,
at least the gate down.
The people of the United States would have to be the ones taking,
The federal government.
as I understand it.
If the fence is in the wrong space and they figure that out at this court hearing, it's gonna be ordered down anyways. And the insurance company's taking care of that. Am I wrong or right about that?
I think you're making an assumption, but I don't know. I defer to man.
Yeah, I mean, if they determine that the planning board's decision was, if they uphold the planning board's decision, then yes, they would be ordered to take down a section of fence, but it doesn't change the fact that somebody else could apply to put up a fence. Or the fact that the Beretta said that anybody who goes along it, they're gonna call and report for trespassing and all the other issues that go along.
Well, they can't
with
do it
this.
if they don't own it. Nobody's gonna do anything.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys made me eat, and I'm still reading about it. A bill for a cleaning lady to clean the restrooms for the public because it didn't do something perfectly. And now we've spent the money, which I agreed to find out who owns it. As far as I'm concerned, we own it. To spend more money before the court hearing tears down the fence, because I'm pretty sure that's what's gonna happen. But if not, we made a mistake. We could do eminent domain at any time. We've got all the stuff done. I don't know. You can do it now and spend the money or whatever, but I don't know where you're
I
gonna get
think
the
we've
money
already
from.
spent the money and
No, we
there's a.
haven't.
No, we haven't
We
even
haven't.
begun to spend the money.
We
There's
were
a-
told,
There's a process, we've done the process with the hearing, and then this has to happen, if we don't do it now, then we probably have to have another hearing.
if we go
That is correct.
And
You have to
another-
act within
Right.
90 days
or
of that
have
hearing.
another hearing. If if you leave it until you find out what the hearing is, or the court case is solved, and you find out that indeed it's coming down, the fence is coming down, I don't know why things don't go back to the way they were. And we know that we have it, we have the information. I'm struggling with the budget.
Yeah. Fence has to
Big
come
time.
down and they're saying that it's not there, then there's nothing there to stop it. We're just taking, it's a land grab. We're taking it.
I don't know enough about that other litigation to comment. My understanding is that it's about a planning board decision and not about ownership of the land or who has rights to enforce an easement, but that's all I know about that litigation.
That's an Article 78 proceeding challenging the planning board's determination that the fence wasn't put up in the location they had approved and directing them to remove it.
And if these three families go and they file the necessary court papers in the next week, we're on the hook for how much more for court case for that? We don't have to pay that?
No, you would have to pay to defend that.
Mhm.
And what's the defense on something like that? For three homeowners that are gonna sue us? I'm just asking, because I'm not one that wants to spend money, and I'm sorry, I think you've done a great job up until now. But I think that we know what we needed. I think that the fence is gonna come down because it's probably not in the right spot. If it doesn't come down, then you've still got the eminent domain, you have a hearing and you do what you wanna do. I think spending any more money right now is ridiculous. We can't afford to fix a parking lot.
The other side of that is the fact that, as Bud has said, that, you know, we need to talk with Berettas and try to find a better way to do this. That was all done, and taking the fence down on their own would have been something that could have been done and saved them a crap load full of money, as well as the
That's
village.
true.
It's a double-edged sword.
I agree with that sentiment, Bill, I really do, but I also, believe, you know, I went over to look at the Beretta's property, right,
Mhm.
just to see what things were. Out in the open, I didn't hide nothing, I parked my vehicle in front, and I get called in by the mayor saying, oh, you can't talk to them, there's litigation, that's nothing concerning me. I was looking at stuff for the right of way, so I could have firsthand knowledge, because I'd never been on there before, right? So now I can't have a conversation with these people that we need to negotiate with to find a better solution.
Unfortunately, that is discussing the fence and that stuff, and if it's under litigation,
No, I never discussed the fence. I never discussed the fence. I said.
well,
where
what
does
were
the
you
right
there
of-
for?
Right? To see where the right of way actually went, where they believed it went, if you will.
Which is where the fence becomes partially involved.
Right, and that,
Right.
but here, same thing. Okay, so
Everybody goes to see what it is.
in and of that, trying to see the same thing, I walked the whole thing, both ways, whatever, all that good stuff, right? Do I have a solution? No, because I was told I shouldn't be back over there, right? So I can't go over there. Now, how do you come to terms? How do you be a good neighbor and come to some kind of resolution with affected parties if you're pitted against them right from the get-go? If you don't, as a group, come together and say, okay, how can we resolve this? Not as Dave and a lawyer, okay, speaking to them, or as a group.
But under the circumstances with the litigation that's that is going on, that's why the attorney's there to talk with either the Berettas or with the Beretta's attorney and then bring the stuff back to us. In essence, I mean,
Prior to any lawsuits, there were many conversations over years. We offered, not just me, but other people offered that the village would do whatever they wanted to try to make it better. That's why those signs are up. That's why there's rocks to prevent vehicles going through there.
Well, I
That's as
don't,
far as we got.
And when they were harassed and when people were sitting on their furniture and breaking things in their yard, and this is not just the bread, it's also this with Nanny, because I got the emails from her too, okay?
the
When
dogs,
people were doing things there and they called the sheriffs and everything, what did we as a village do at that point to protect them?
nothing.
We did
We
absolutely
did
nothing.
nothing.
because it's.
Right, it's law enforcement, you're pushing it onto somebody else, and here's what I'm saying, that's
So
the
what
pushback.
But it is, I mean, if that's the case and we want to have things covered on a day-to-day basis, with law enforcement, so somebody's here all the time? We need to hire a cop?
We
Yeah, well,
didn't
we
do
said-
it
I
though
brought
when
that up
they had the
before.
policemen.
I understand that. I understand that, but that's why we as a board can say to whoever our law enforcement is, this is what needs to happen. Can we afford it? No. Not, but you know what I'm saying, not when it comes down to a 365, 24/7, without a doubt.
180 days, let's call it summertime.
I agree,
It is.
but
But
that's what we run into. And there's just so many things that are going on in this village, not just a ROW, or the fence situation. Lori's got the playground going on. There's a lot of things that are going on in the county in general right now that we get drawn into. And we really, I guess it's hell to say we've got to set priorities, but we do. And at times we spend money, and I understand completely, where you wish you didn't have to, but there's just sometimes no way
Well,
around
what
it.
This
happens
way we
when they
don't have to.
counter us?
This is not a
When they
necessity.
counter this lawsuit, now I'm pretty sure that's gonna happen.
Mhm.
And I don't think it'll be the Berettas. Okay?
Yeah.
When that lawsuit comes back at us, we have to defend that. Do we have insurance to cover that?
You'd have to check with your insurance company and see if it's.
It's highly
covered or not.
doubtful.
No,
I'm not
because
sure if
we're
they'll
pushing
cover it
this
or not.
agenda. They're not gonna defend that. They're gonna say you didn't have to bring this forward.
Well, it would just be whether it's covered by your policy or not. I'm not sure if it is.
The only reason it's covered by our policy now is because of the allegations that we treated them differently as I
Yeah, the equal protection claim triggered it.
Any other types of discussion?
One, eminent domain is probably not, if there was another solution that we could have come to, compromise or something. It's not the thing, it's been a lot of years in the making
We
that
shouldn't
we've
even have
reached that
this sitting
point.
here before us. They should have been taken care of when they made the sidewalk to nowhere.
Well, you
But
look at,
it says, there is a sentence in here, so the right of way was given to the United States of America. But it appears that the village does not have a right to enforce the right of way in favor of the general public.
And
So
why
if it
is that?
belongs to
Because
the,
we haven't taken it. We haven't,
correct,
but we
the
don't need to
village-
do eminent domain to take that.
How do we take it
how would we
otherwise?
take it
We
otherwise?
sit down there with our community and we take it. Yeah. Once the fence is out and we walk it, a parade and you're set. It
okay.
belongs to the United
I'd
States.
like to go back to, Article H here. The action will not result in encouraging or attracting a large number of people or places for
I'm
more than a
talking
few days
parade.
compared to the number of people who would come to see such a place absent from the action. So you're telling me if there's a right of way there, it's not gonna invite people to go that path versus if it's not there and only a couple of townies.
I think it reads it like they wouldn't stay there several days on the
Yeah.
path. Is that what that?
It's general use and traffic. I mean, encouraging, or attracting a large group of people to a place or places for more than a few days compared to the number who would come to such a place absent the action. How many people would use it on a normal basis versus if it's wide open and known about and propagated, how many people are gonna use it comparatively?
The changes that have happened in our village with the Airbnbs and the other people that have come have changed the nature of the right of way. I am convinced of that.
It's not the
Every-
right of way that's doing that.
It-
It's the growing of the community that's
it's the
doing that.
growing of the
And
community.
there's no way to dodge that. I
But
mean,
you
and that's,
can have that in the front lawn of somebody's who's got a sidewalk down through there too. I mean, I don't wanna say that the right of way isn't. Cause I actually think the right of way is a good thing,
Mhm.
except that I think that it does invade on the safety of the people at night.
and that was offered too, if I'm not mistaken.
I think
There
it
was
was.
ways to try and stop that at night and,
I suggested a gate locked from dusk to dawn, which wasn't acceptable. So, I mean, but you guys vote on how you want to do.
Had we clearly articulated who is gonna take care of that and that sort of thing? I mean, I can imagine that that would be a problem too. Well,
We have money problems we can't pay for, and then this. And as well, what is, Ms. Bennett, what is the appeals process cost generally?
So they would have.
Where's your base fee? We'll start there.
So they would have the opportunity to challenge at the appellate division 4th department. That's generally done. They'll file papers in a brief. We put in the record, we file a responding brief, and then oral argument is generally scheduled. Typically, that's going to run somewhere between $7,500 and $10,000.
File the brief.
Yes, and go and argue it and put together the record.
Okay. And then expect the cost from there. After you've gone and argued it, let's say that they've argued that possibly this is in the village's favor. Then you have the expense of acquiring the property. Can you tell me what that expense would perpetually be?
So the process to put together a petition and file it with Wayne County Supreme Court is a very simple process. I would expect that to be somewhere between $1,500 and $2,500.
Okay, and how about the actual cost of the properties?
So that's an interesting legal question, considering the owner is the railroad. Since I don't know if the railroad's gonna file a claim or not, it's possible that there's no compensation that would need to be
But you don't know,
paid.
but you've been doing this for a couple months, but
It
you don't
depends.
have that answer.
It depends if the railroad company files a claim.
And exactly, you don't know that answer, and that could go to tens of thousands of
It
dollars.
is hypothetical, but if the railroad company hasn't indicated they have any interest in this to this point, so.
Right, and they may not have an interest in the easement either. That's the deciding factor, and that's why this is being pushed.
Okay, I think, is there any other new discussion to have?
Why is it every time I say something, Dave, you cut it right off with any new discussion? Yeah, this is not open for public discussion tonight,
All
remember?
in favor of the motion, please, or actually, we need to do roll call.
Wait, read the motion again is to move forward
Is to
with
move
the
forward with this
eminent domain.
determination and findings. Bud,
But I vote nay.
Lori,
no,
Bill,
yes.
Kathy,
Yes,
I will vote yes as well.
I'd like to make a motion that no more property in Sodas Point be sold or right-of-ways given away or sold, however, acquired by anyone unless it goes up for referendum by the public.
This board will decide that as we go forward.
No.
And I think we talked last meeting.
I made a motion.
I second that motion.
All right. Any discussion on the motion?
Which,
I am,
motion or on our, yeah, I don't have a problem with that. I mean, you know, as far as the sale of property and that.
It's talking about putting it up to a referendum of the voters anytime you wanna buy or sell property. I mean, the statute allows the village to just buy or sell property, so I mean.
I understand that, but there have been so many backdoor deals in this community that we have seen all kinds of things over the years.
Many.
There are many.
But remember, we talked about when you brought this up before, the board still has to approve any buy or sell every single time, you know what I mean? So not really.
It's like finding something surplus. In essence.
Yeah.
And you may have a situation where you need to acquire property perhaps in a hurry, you don't have time to put up the referendum of the voters, you know? That's just my counsel. I understand the sentiments.
I think it's neat, yeah, I think it would be something that very clearly needs to be put up if you're gonna do something, I mean, and not just, you know.
This should have
I mean-
gone for referendum.
I mean, I can tell you many years ago with a couple of our mayors that
Yes,
on Monday it was one thing and Tuesday it was something else, so it's way back though, I mean, I'm not recently,
Well,
but
we can't fix the past.
Nope.
We do understand that we wish some areas that were given up, we still had. If somebody does enough research, we might find that we do still have it, for all I know. I have no idea.
Yeah.
I know there are areas that some people have researched a little bit. If somebody
Well-
brings one forward, obviously we'll address it.
We're just a never ending growing community.
Yeah,
And it's bringing up some real pains that we probably never anticipated.
Right, I mean, it would be wonderful if that path was gonna go all the way to the railroad bed or the trolley bed or whatever.
Oh, I'm sure it'll
beds
go
are
to
there.
the trailer park, that's for sure.
Yeah. What?
so
Oh,
we
that
need to
one.
vote on Lori's motion, which is to do a referendum anytime we want to buy or sell property.
I'll withdraw the motion.
Okay, I was just gonna say reason. Okay, never mind, this was.
All right, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Move.
Second.
All in favor? All right, thank you very much, everybody. I know there's some stuff.
So if you decide,